Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have with us Serena Low. She is a trauma informed coach for introverts and quiet achievers. She's also an author, host of the Quiet Warrior podcast. She has been an introvert herself. As she says, she supports quiet achievers to grow into quiet warriors and achieve professional visibility without having to act extroverted. Welcome to the show, Serena.
Thank you so much, Ajay, for having me here.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show, Serena. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about how introverts can lead boldly, quietly, and authentically. We'll talk about all this. But before that, let's understand a bit about your journey, your background, so that people know who they are listening to, Serena.
Sure. So I grew up in Singapore and I practiced law for 11 years. And then one day I decided that there has to be something else out there for me that is not just following the path of doing a certain thing in a certain way and doing that for the rest of your life. I wanted to find out what else was possible. And so, by a very long detour, I found my way to what I do now. And it actually is a perfect full circle kind of moment because I've been an introvert all my life. And one of the things I really struggled with, and I notice other introverts struggle with as well, is how do we put ourselves out there and share what it is that we can do well and what our message is and let our voice be heard when we are by nature quiet and we don't like the spotlight. So that is the core of the work that I do now, which is helping quiet achievers become quiet warriors. Because the thing that I always remind our fellow introverts is it's good to start off as a quiet achiever. We all start there. But there comes a point in your life and in your career where there is something more important, something bigger that you need to speak up for or you need to fight for. And it's not about yourself, it's about other people and how other people are affected. And if you don't speak up, nothing changes. So that's the moment when we need to connect with the quiet warrior inside each of us and allow that quiet warrior to take over and lead us so that we can make decisions, we can make judgment calls, we can take action from that position of strength.
Absolutely, absolutely, Serena. So, before we get more into details, let's understand why do introverts consider themselves at a disadvantage in today's time? Why is it so? Because is it the words or is it the work that work in a workplace or outside?
I think it's very much context dependent, Ajay. A lot of cultures and environments actually reward people for speaking more, for speaking louder, for being the first person to speak up, for being quick, and for getting a lot of attention. And what we find is introverts, because we are completely opposite, we need time to think, we need time to process our thoughts, and we like to speak only when we are prepared and we know what we are talking about and we have something meaningful to say. So that is completely opposite to how corporate culture usually works. And so what happens is that the introverts and the quiet achievers, they get crowded out. So if you don't have a good facilitator hosting the meeting and the discussion, what happens is the introverts lose the opportunity to say something because while they are still thinking, the conversation has already moved on. There's an agenda, there are other things to handle. It's all about being quick. So if you're not quick to get in, then you lose the opportunity to speak. And so that acts to the disadvantage of the introvert. And another problem for the introvert is they don't like to talk about themselves and their work and their contributions. They feel that it's bragging. Maybe they were brought up that you don't brag, you have to be humble, you shouldn't talk about yourself. But in corporate culture we find a lot of the time that people who are very good at articulating their message or spotlighting their own achievements tend to be more promotable, tend to be seen as leaders. So it is not so much a competence thing, it is more about an appearance thing. And that's where the introvert again gets disadvantaged because they are more about substance and about competence. They like to do the work well, but they do it away from the spotlight. Whereas other people love being in the spotlight and talking a lot.
Absolutely. So let us understand this way, Serena. In today's world of technology, when a lot of people, even introverts, so-called introverts, I call them so-called introverts because now they have lots of strength, so they are no less than anyone else. And braggers and too much of loud mouthers will get exposed one day or the other. Only the genuine ones will be there. To be in the moment is different, but to fake it till they make it is different. In that situation, when the world is moving towards remote work, asynchronous meetings and all, everywhere the introverts will have enough time for themselves to respond, and respond very strongly as per their strength. So in today's time, should we consider that these are the uh, good times for introverts, well, best times for introverts, or is it still not so good times for introverts? How would you like to see it? Let's look at it from your time when you were a lawyer several years back.
I would say that when I started out, it was always the loud voices and the bigger personalities that would get attention. And that is still the case, regardless of what industry or profession you are in. And even if you are in IT, you are in a STEM profession, and you're very, very good at what you do, but if you don't know how to communicate your value, if you don't know how to persuade and negotiate and influence and articulate what is the value you're bringing, you are still going to be disadvantaged. So, whether the meetings are synchronous, asynchronous, I think the important thing is nowadays there is greater awareness of what introversion means because of Susan Cain's book and all the leaders that have gone on since then to bring some light to this space. So there is greater awareness, but also I think it's important for introverts to be proactive. That means don't wait for the opportunity to come to you. Don't wait to be noticed. You create your own spotlight. You create your own unique positioning. What is it that I'm really good at doing that other people are not? What comes effortlessly to me? And then let me go and lean in to those quiet strengths. So, for instance, introverts are very good listeners, very attentive to detail, very good at executing, have very high standards of excellence. All these are their superpowers. When an introvert is listening intently and fully present, you can feel it. That there's nobody else that matters but the person that they are talking to. And making that person feel special and feel heard and validated, that is one of the super strengths of the introvert. Because most people are too busy either inside their own heads, thinking, what is the next thing I need to say? How do I wrap up this conversation quickly? How do I move on to the next topic? The introvert is fully focused in the moment. And that kind of power, it can be just for a few seconds, for a few minutes, but the impact on that person who feels heard and feels understood, that cannot be underestimated.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let me ask you this way, Serena. Why do you call yourself an introvert? See, it's a live show. You are answering on the spot without having too much of time to think. In fact, if I were in your position as a guest, I would not be able to answer it this way. So, why do you call yourself an introvert at all? You are very good. So, I want to understand the difference. Why do introverts consider themselves as introverts in a disadvantageous manner? I want to understand that part because many people are introverts. Got thousands and thousands of guests I've talked. Many are introverts, but they talk so well. And if they can talk so well in a program, live show, global show, why couldn't they be talking also as confidently, as strongly, in their environment, within their workplaces? Why is it so? Is it the mind that stops them at that point in time, second guessing themselves? Help us understand these things from the ground level so that a lot of people who consider themselves introverts then suddenly put them into a back bracket of that they lack somewhere something, which my personal thinking is not the case.
Yes. So that you've raised a really good point, Ajay, and that is that introversion is not a weakness. It's simply a description of a preference for communication, a communication style, a personality style. So the way Susan Cain explained it is that introverts use their energy differently from how extroverts are. So extroverts, when there are more people around them, The more people there are, the more energized they are. So they're very happy to be surrounded by people and to have those conversations. It gives them even more energy. But the introvert is the other way around. We start off with a social battery, let's say this much, and the more people we talk to, the battery goes down, just like your phone being drained, right? And then you need to recharge the phone. So the introvert, after talking to people for some time, they have to go away and recharge themselves. They've run out of energy. So it's not that they cannot talk, it's not that they can't deliver or present or do public speaking. It's just that it drains them. So they need that quiet time to go away and charge themselves up. Their happy place is actually when they're by themselves, thinking their deep thoughts, they can reflect, they can introspect, they can write. That's when they are in the happy place. And the extrovert is the opposite. So it's just being on opposite sides of this spectrum.
Absolutely. So let's look at the solutions. Talk about how does one so-called introvert, becomes more visible and makes an impact without acting to be an extrovert person. How do they do that? What are the ways they can do that?
So, the first thing I always encourage fellow introverts is to notice what your own strengths are. We talked about some of them just now: the ability to listen, the ability to hold a space, being able to bring a calm energy to a room. So you notice that in a group discussion, there's these group dynamics. There are some people who are naturally loud and want to have a say in everything and want to have the last word. And then you have those that will hang back a little bit. They will take their time to talk. They will take their time to think. And then when they're ready, they will say something. And when they say that thing, everybody stops and listens. Because when an introvert speaks, it's because they've already done some thinking and done some research inside their heads, and they are prepared and they are informed and they've got the data. So when they speak, it's very persuasive. And the quality of the energy is different as well. The introvert brings a very calm, quiet kind of energy, so it stabilizes the atmosphere when things get heated. And that is very important for counterbalancing when the excitement is too much, or other people are getting too enthused or aggressive, or things are getting out of hand. You need someone to come in and bring some stability back.
Absolutely. What about sales and networking? There, some people may think, I may not succeed in such lines, but is it the case? Because sales are sales, and people need people they can trust. Customers need people they can trust, and even others need people who can trust, rather than just loud mouthers.
Absolutely. Introverts make some of the best salespeople because they actually care about the other person. They care about what they're selling. They want to maintain their own personal ethos and their high standards of excellence and integrity. So they will make sure that whatever they are doing, it's done well, it's done competently, it's done to a high level of professionalism. And then they will treat the other person well. They will listen carefully. What is it that you need? What's the problem you are facing as the customer? Let me listen to your needs and then let me go away and think about it. I'm not going to pressure you, but here are the solutions. Here's what I think is possible, and this is what fits your budget. Here are a few options. And just the way I think that the introvert communicates without pressurizing the person, without putting them on the spot, without manipulating or bullying or harassing or any of that sort, just fully respecting and holding the space and giving the other person time to think and putting that person's interests above everything else. That is what makes the introvert salesperson stand out.
Absolutely. And as I earlier mentioned, is technology a good advantage for introverts? Because that gives them a chance to, even in remote working, even in responding to emails or messages, that gives them that time to think, and they can be the best version of themselves, the person that they are.
Absolutely. I love using email to explain myself because sometimes what I say in the moment may not be exactly what I mean when I'm less pressured. If I have time to think and craft together something and I remember our conversation and I think, okay, all these points that Ajay mentioned, I need to address them. He mentioned these concerns, he talked about this, he's worried about this. Let me address all that in my email. So then I can put together something beautiful, something that addresses all your worries. And then when you read it, you're like, Serena was actually listening to me. She paid attention to what I said. And everything she said in this proposal, I can accept.
Absolutely. One more thing, you talk about a lot nowadays. It's the whole age of people talking about fake it till you make it, and this is many times linked with extroverts. But you talk that no, this is detrimental if introverts start doing it. Why is it only detrimental for introverts? Why not also for extroverts? Because they will also get exposed. But why do you call it is detrimental, especially for introverts?
I say it's detrimental because introverts have been conditioned to believe that there's something wrong with them. And because the marketing advice, the gurus out there for decades now have been saying fake it till you make it like it's some universal statement of truth that everybody should subscribe to. And it's not true. And you are right, Ajay. It's not just the introverts. The extroverts also need to not listen to this kind of advice because it doesn't work. People can sense when somebody is pretending, when somebody puts on a mask, when somebody is being fake, they're not being themselves. You can sense what is truth and what is acting, right? And it's not going to build trust if you know that person is just acting and putting on a front to impress you. So, to the introvert, they don't like pretending. They're very much about personal integrity. They can't act. And so they would rather be very quiet, do their thing quietly. So that doesn't serve them. So for them, the best way is actually to come from that authentic place, come from who they originally are without having to pretend. This is who I am. This is what I'm presenting to you. This is what I've researched. This is what the data says. This is how I see it based on my lived experience or my professional expertise. And this is my recommendation to you. So no need for the fluff, no need to blow it up and make it something exaggerated just to impress. Because you are right, people will find out that you are lying, and we don't want that. We want to operate from a place of trust and mutual respect. That's how we do business. That's how we do anything, right? So it has to start from that place of honesty and integrity. And that's why fake it till you make it doesn't work, not for introverts and not for extroverts.
Absolutely. And absolutely, you call them quite warriors. And warriors are very skilled. And that is where you also talk about three top strengths of an introvert. So, in a nutshell, what are these strengths that introverts should always remember wherever they do, whatever they do?
I would say come always from the point of purpose and ask yourself what your why is. Why is it that I need to have this conversation? Why is it that I want to do this presentation? Why is it that I am speaking out about this particular topic? So if I know my why very clearly, if I know who it benefits, who it's for, then I can speak louder. I can speak more convincingly. I can speak with passion and I can speak without fear. So, number one is knowing your purpose. Number two is always authenticity, coming from who I am. I don't have to pretend. I don't have to act. I don't have to dress specially just to fit in or just to conform. I don't have to laugh or go to parties or do networking the way other people do it. I can do it one to one. I can do it one to a few people. But if I do it with sincerity, then that is my style. That is me being authentic. And people will sense that. And I think the third thing, the most important thing, is to remember that just because you're an introvert or a quiet achiever, it doesn't mean you're at a disadvantage, doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. You are perfectly fine. It is just that the conditioning of the culture or the environment where you are sometimes makes you feel that you are out of place. You need to act like other people. So remember who you are. Remember that you by yourself have a lot to contribute. Know what your own quiet strengths are. Lean into them. Honor those strengths because that's how you connect with people in a genuine way.
Absolutely. There's much to learn about all this from you, Serena, and a lot to learn from your book also. The Hero Within, Reinvent Your Life, one chapter at a time. What is this book all about? Who is this book for? Does it also talk about this topic?
So this is a collaborative book. It's a collection of 10 stories of people around the world who have overcome adversity. So it can be, personal challenges. It can be career changes, career losses. It can be death, divorce, grief, and loss, or and abuse, and the human nature's ability to bounce back and to move on and grow stronger in the face of adversity. That's what it's about. That's why it's called the hero within, because inside every one of us, there is that hero. And we have the ability to reinvent ourselves. Even when things are really bad and we are starting over from zero and we think we've lost everything, we have nothing, we have to recreate ourselves from scratch. It is still possible because these people have done it. And if they can do it, then so can we.
Absolutely. As I said, there is much to learn about all this from you, Serena, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to connect with you, learn more about all this, and also take your services as a trauma informed coach and also learn from your podcast, what Warrior podcast. What's the best way for them to do so?
Well, as you mentioned, the best way would be the podcast itself, the Quiet Warrior podcast, which is specifically for introverts and quiet achievers. And the other one would be on LinkedIn because I'm very active there and I'm constantly sharing stories, sharing tips of how we can be more visible for people who are introverted, who are quiet achievers, and they know they need to put themselves out there, but they want to do it without having to act extroverted. So I'm always sharing insights there.
Absolutely. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.